This PSA was brought to you by the Peter G Show.
You may have second thoughts after the show.
Don't drink the faucet.
We're really talented. We should get Oscars.
Just pick out a car, for Christ's sake.
No, hi, my name is Peter.
Yeah, I want.
Here's good.
Yeah.
Madam Perry.
I need to get back in the genie bottle.
Louis from Pennsylvania, you're on.
He likes it.
It's showtime.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorced dad, single dad, divorced dad, single dad, Peter G Show.
That's right, showtime. And what is playing just when you think you got it down? What the hell is playing? You know, every time you think you got it together. Every time you think you got it together. It's the very last one. Okay. Sorry. It's been one of those days. But then again, I'm grateful to be. So can't complain. How the hell is everybody? What the hell is going on? I only have so many monitors, and what is playing? Not that this has never happened before, right? Okay, there we go. No, there we don't go. Why is there? Oh, I see. Not that this has never happened before, right? Okay. Oh, man. Bear with me. I think I started 2 shows at once, if that makes any kind of sense. Just hang on. Holy moly. How can this be possible? Look at Paul laughing. Life in the fast lane. All right. So I'm going to take me out, and we're going to make believe like we started over again. I think we're good now. Holy crap. In the hustle and bustle of this evening, I was pressing a lot of buttons. And when I press those buttons, no matter how many times I've done this in a row, you come to find out that every once in a while, life has to give you a good, swift kick in the ass. In the hustle and bustle of this evening, where am I hearing this sound from? I can't keep it. So I'm not even talking right now. How does that happen? See? Okay. Somebody's playing a really dirty trick on me. I know. It all falls very, very. It's like, don't worry, I'm a professional. I'll rise above it. I can't figure this out for the life of me. There we go. We got that. We got that. Okay. Somebody's playing a really dirty trick on me. I know. It's all falls. Please stand by. Don't worry, I'm a professional. Where is the sound coming from? What's going on? This is going off. I think we got it. Wow. Peter. All right, so how many minutes are we into this whole thing? 5 minutes of me fumbling around. But I can do it. Hey, you know what? Let's start over again, all right? Here we go. Watch. Let's do it. Here we go. Just make believe like you didn't even see me, okay?
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorced dad, single dad, divorced dad, single dad, Peter G Show.
Hey, Wednesday. That's right. Note to self, turn your friggin' phone off. As if I don't know that. But there's so much going on beyond the camera eye. I'm like an octopus. And there's literally a bunch of phones sitting in front of me. And I don't know what the hell happened. But hey, doesn't matter. Here we are. Tonight. I hope everybody's doing well. Now I've just completely thrown myself for a loop. As always, I hope everybody's doing well. Tonight, great show. I've done many shows on this, and I'm pleased to say that I'm doing another one because it means, I don't know why it means so much to me, but it just does. I mentioned last week that August the 8th was the 1-year anniversary of the Lahaina fires, and that I was fortunate enough to get someone who's on the island who's been very, very hands-on on the island about these fires, because I, like him, do not believe that this was just a natural occurrence and it was just an accident. At least that's my belief, and I'm sticking to it unless you tell me differently. But tonight, I have he's got an organization, a grassroots organization that he started, and it's right there on the island, and but it's worldwide. Maui Community Investigations, Mr. Paul Deslauriers is going to be on this show talking about what has happened, where they are now a year from now, because I've done 5 shows. I've done shows from August all the way through December. I think I managed to do 4 shows, and then we did one at the beginning of this year. So we're going to talk to him because he's right there, boots on the ground. I don't think I could probably get a better source of information than what we're about to get tonight. Okay? So I want you to hang in, stay tuned, get your popcorn, grab a glass of wine, a beer, whatever, because it's going to be important. Again, this could happen to any town USA as far as I'm concerned. So it's very important. But he's coming up in just a few short minutes. I also want to remind you that next week's also, I managed to get her. She was on 2 years ago. I was the first one to ever have her on a show. And just recently I saw her on Facebook, because I follow Facebook a lot. I watch what everybody does on Facebook. Who died, who's showing what kind of food they ate, who's having surgery prayers, who's having a political conniption fit, who's drinking the Kool-Aid, all the above. But I saw her video blowing up, and it was a video that I used 2 years ago. And she goes by Defender of the Republic, and her name is Miss Katie Passy. And a video that I showed 2 years ago is going viral all of a sudden on Facebook now. And it's just a video of her talking about the chaos in this world and what's going on. And she's very articulate, she's very knowledgeable, and she's taken it upon herself to get out there and try to do something. And she's grown tremendously in these past 2 years of getting involved. And she's going to be on the show Wednesday, August 21st, right here, Defender of the Republic, for her second appearance. The first one was 2 years ago. A lot has happened in 2 years. She's going to be on this show, Miss Katie Passy, and we're going to talk to her. And she's easy on the eyes. Everything. The big whole picture. Smart, articulate, knows what she's talking about. And we're going to be talking about current events and the times we're living in right now, because, let's face it, folks, it's pretty messed up. Depends who you ask, but there are some who are walking through, through life without a clue, and there are some that are heavily involved, and we're so divided. I hate it. I wish we could all just get along like we used to. But, again, these are the times we live in. So that's next week, August 14th. Don't miss it. Also want to remind you real quick that, I really would appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. YouTube throttles me down. They've banned my show many times. They've suspended me many times. But we don't stop participating on their platform, because I don't want to leave that. I know that we're on Rumble and all these freedom of speech platforms and all this, but I want to reach the people on YouTube's and TikTok gives me a hard time also. But I want to reach them too, because I want to reach the normal people who might be sitting on the fence and need to hear the message. So I don't want to get banned. So keep on helping me out. Hit the subscribe button, will you please? Please. It means a lot. It's free. petergshow.com. Go. It'll take you right to there. Hit subscribe, follow, like, and share. Sharing is a big deal for everybody I bring on these shows. We're trying to spread their messages, okay? Because I try to bring you entertainment with a purpose. Please. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be getting into the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. But first, I always need to hear and want to hear from my good friends over at Clean Star Products with their money-saving fuel additive DX1 driver, because let's face it, folks, it makes sense to save money. I'll be back in 1 minute.
Hello, I'm Tyrone Thompson of CleanStarProducts.com. This is DX1 Driver in the news, and here's what our friends have to say.
So I'm here to recap on the DX1 I've used. I put it in oil and I put it in the gas. While I'm using it just for about 3 tanks. Cleaned everything out. I got every ounce of power back in my truck.
When Jared's truck was new, it had a lot of power. Then over time, it began to slow down. He got it all back with our DX1 Driver program.
Something you got to see for yourself. It's a great product. It's affordable. And it blows all the other additives and esters out of the water.
DX1 Driver is the finest oil in the world from a California environmental company. It goes into the fuel system and the oil. It's the only green grade product qualified for the carbon credits program, giving you better fuel mileage, lower emissions, and increased horsepower. So join the fuel savings revolution today. Go to CleanStarProducts.com/shop.
That's right, folks. Clean Star Products. All I can tell you is 2 short words. It works. I use it myself. I would never talk about something that I didn't believe in. Anybody who's been listening to me and watching me long enough knows I don't play. I either am with you or I'm not, and I'm not phony, but it works. Take care of your engine, cleans out everything, brings back the horsepower. I have a higher mileage vehicle. It did a number on it. It took me about 4 tanks of the Clean Star Products DX1 driver, and I started feeling the difference. Even my daughter, who drives my Ford F-150 to pick up hay for her horse, knew that there was something different. It was peppier, cleaner burning, better emissions, all the above. Go to www.cleanstarproducts. Go to their website. There's a phone number there, all right? Ty Thompson wants you to call him directly with any questions you may have. He's going to speak to you personally. And here's why you need to use that phone number. Because when he answers your questions, should you choose to order, tell him you saw it on the Peter G Show. Why? I'll tell you why. Good question. If you order and say you saw it on the Peter G Show, he's going to send you 5 bottles of DX1 driver for the price of 4. All right? Yeah. Say, hey, I saw it on the Peter G Show and I want to order. And say, all right, then you get the 5 bottle for the price of 4 deal. Everybody likes a deal. Who doesn't love a deal? All right? That's it. He cares about what they do, and they do it really well. Clean Star Products DX1 driver. Go for it. It works. Now, let's take a drink real quick. One of those days. I swear this whole summer's been weird. Had I not known better, I swear that somebody's after trying to mess things up. But that couldn't happen, could it? Woo! Smooth. All right. Paul's coming up in just a minute. I have a little video of Paul that kind of brings him in, gives you an idea who this man is, and then he's going to tell you who this man is. And we're going to talk a lot about this Maui Lahaina fires. A lot. All right? Check this out, and we'll be right back.
I'm Paul Deslauriers with the Maui Community Investigation, a local grassroots group that was formed to be a repository for data and information about the Lahaina fire that took place on August 8th. And as we gathered this information into different categories, we found that there were 30 anomalies and questions. And as I reviewed that information with 5 former fire chiefs and captains, they all said the same thing, that this is more than just a natural fire. I mean, how can it be when you start to look at cars and trucks burnt in half with surrounding buildings and even light brush intact? Trees standing next to buildings reduced to white ash. And trees burnt from within with bark and leaves remaining. The wildfire circumvented structures and whole areas. 78 vessels on the water burnt, and some 200 yards from shore. And that was strange weather patterns before and during the fire. And then there were the dead bodies also. So as we look at this, it really does show that we need a thorough investigation And our state attorney general is heading up the government investigation, and they hired Underwriter Laboratories. And this is the same organization that conducted the investigation into the tower collapse on 9/11, and we're part of the NIST report that promoted a very controversial pancake theory. And a lot of data and information was misrepresented and removed from the report itself. So again, this is the group also that joined the World Economic Forum and who will be conducting our investigation. So our community is coming together, and please help us by signing the petition, and so that we can have a transparent, open investigation into what truly happened on that day. And I think that also it has implications for what's happening on a global level at this point in time. So please sign our petition and support what we're doing. Mahalo.
There you go. Gives you a little roundup summary. And now here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, from the island of Maui, Mr. Paul Deslauriers. Hey, Paul.
Hi, Peter. Well, I must say the props are interesting.
You know, and I know that it's been a weird day or couple of days getting us together and getting us to this point. I can't say it's never happened before, but it definitely will start keeping you on your toes. But the beauty of it is, at the end of the day, God willing, here we are, and I think we're kind of flawless up until I started the show and just tripped over my own feet. But that doesn't matter. I've done it before. I'll probably do it again. But I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and spend some time on this show, because I think this is really important. Why don't you tell everybody real quick, even though your video did a little bit something real quick, and then we'll get into some more stuff.
Well, Peter, first of all, I want to thank you for having this platform to share information and data that is very relevant to what's happening right now, not only in terms of our local communities, but globally at this point. And what happened shortly after August 8th last year, a group of us really got clear that there's something off. There was something not right about what happened, and our guts told us that we need to look into this. And so there were 40 of us, 40 residents that got together, and we started gathering data, information, testimonies, and also looking at it in terms of categories so that we can make it so that it could be a forensic investigation.
Wow, and I just lost Paul. Oh, there we go. Hey, where'd you go? Okay, hey, come on back.
Oh, so something happened here?
Hey, you popped off real quick. I swear somebody's after us, but go ahead.
Okay, so I hope you didn't lose too much in my train of thought.
Not at all. Not at all. You actually, you finished the sentence, and then all of a sudden you just popped off. So pick up where you left off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what we've been doing, though, as a community is coming together. And I think that's one of the solutions that we have, not only for what's happening here in Maui, but also happening in so many communities where these catastrophes are occurring. And it seems like many of them were geared for smart cities. And again, it just makes no logical sense until you start looking at the forensic data and how things occurred. Like you just showed a little video there of trees and the vehicles, the offshore boats that were burning. There were many explosions that were going off. It was like fireworks constantly going off. And it was not anything to do with the transformers. The power was off. And the gas tanks, I only saw, I looked at hundreds of gas tanks, and I only saw one gas tank exploded. So again, there are many things that are, as we keep on digging and looking at things, it just opens up questions. But we were waiting for an important piece of data to come forth. And that's when the government actually then gave their reports. And what they did with that, they drew their line in the sand. And they're saying, this is our story. This is the way it is. Just like we had our story shortly, just on the day of 9/11. And we had this whole thing of, jihadists and Osama bin Laden. That was being repeated ongoingly. So this message that they're trying to put out also is trying to divert us from what truly has happened. But as a community, we're coming together and we're taking civic responsibility. And I think that's one of the things that we all have to do at this point in time if we are not going to allow this psychopathic system to do what it's doing right now, not only to our communities, but globally. So I think it's so important that we keep on connecting. And Peter, again, thank you so much for helping to educate the community, because we need the court of public opinion to really start to become more consciously aware that right now we're being attacked. And as you start to see some of the pieces on our website, we have a tab on our website called Lahaina Reports. And in there right now, we're going to be putting a whole series of videos that will be then contradicting the government's official story. And there's a lot to contradict. So
Right.
what we're doing with this is, and we've done FOIA reports, for example, like we have like data on 28 trees that were burnt from within and deep down into the root system. Like I dug down in the ash there, really 1.5 feet where the root system was. It was all ash. But yet they say that in their FOIA request that I made, oh, there were no trees that burnt from within.
Pictures
So
don't
this,
lie.
so this is the type of thing that we're being faced. So that's why we have our community. There's been a lot of people who took videos in the fire itself, and we're able to see a lot of different things. So we'll be putting out these series of videos. And Peter, you have one that we just released just last night, and it's on the weather. And I'm so happy you have to premiere our video that we're doing on this. But again, you can see that this is the main driver of the fire. Crucial in terms of any type of forensic investigation. And I think it is important to look at how they omitted 7 major aspects of this weather and the different anomalies associated with that. And they come up with this other story that you'll see. But again, I think that it's important that we look at the data, look at the facts, look at the testimonies and the videos and unbiased experts. Let them tell the story instead of a cover-up or some conspiracy theory. So that's our whole focus. We're just focusing on the data and the facts. And right now, and with that, I think if you use common sense, you could see that the government story does not match up. So.
This is the problem. I think with everything going on in life right now is people have been conditioned to believe what the news, because we used to trust the news, and it's so hard to believe that they would lie to us, and this is ongoing, and this is ruining, because it's so I totally understand that, but we're being fed things that and saying there's no way they're going to lie to us, and most people just believe it. Why believe me or you? But let me ask you a question, just so people can understand. Mm-hmm. You are not some guy from the mainland who just kind of flew over to investigate. You live on the island, correct?
Yeah, I've been living on the island for quite a while. I started a political action group called the Maui Pono Network, where we look at and get involved with the local politics and select candidates that support the people and the environment instead of big money interest. And so that has been an integral part. When the whole thing happened with the vaccines, we're part of getting the data and information out with doctors on how to counteract some of the repercussions from that. So we've been really engaged, involved. I was on the Charter Commission. Every 10 years, they select 11 citizens here in the county to represent them in order to look at our local laws. Our charter is the way things are wired, how power is transformed into the nitty-gritty. And so this is an important piece. So I was, very much integrally involved in that. And that's how we have to rewire, actually, our local communities. by getting involved with looking at the local charters, and that means getting involved with legislatures and making sure those legislatures support the people and the environment. So this is what the type of thing that I've been involved with, a lot of civic engagement and community engagement. So when this happened, with my background that I have a master's degree in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering, and I also was involved with looking at major oil spills and overseeing research and cleanup. So I understand these different sites. So with that background, and we have other people, many people who have PhDs that are working with us, who have a lot of different expertise in different categories and different areas, that allows us to then to do a deep dive into the different aspects of what happened.
But I'm sure you're stepping on a lot of toes while you're doing it.
Well, I think that maybe exposing truth,
Right.
you can look at that as stepping on toes. I think that what we need to do is stop the illusion and delusion that
Right.
is being perpetrated by mainstream media, so that we can really get to a deeper truth of what's happening right now.
Right.
And as you can just see, just with the weather, but if you go to our website and go to our videos that we have and start looking at them, you can start to see. And if you sign our petition, you'll be getting a regular newsletter that will allow you to just to stay on top of all the different investigation that we're doing.
I mean, we're going to play this video here in a minute, but the thing is, I know you understand how people is so hard to take most and say, hey, I know what you're seeing, and you're just saying, well, that must be it. But I mean, are you finding a lot of resistance? Like, not necessarily on the island for the people who were directly infected, that it happened to, but to the outside world, are you getting a lot of people going, oh, come on, Paul, stop with the nonsense? I get it. All the
Thousands and thousands of people. We put our videos out with Eric West, who was one of the early people who was involved in communicating about the fire. And he has a big following. So we got about 30,000 views on our videos that we put out just from him alone. And we got a lot of comments that I read, and I only heard one negative comment out of reading over probably about 2,500 that I've read.
Okay.
So that's from people from the outside, and also people from here in Maui consistently are so grateful that we're taking a stand and we're getting to the truth of what truly, because people here feel like, wait a minute, this was not right.
Oh, this is bad.
What occurred.
It was horrible. But I don't know how it happened, but it happened. I told you that some of the short clips that I put out from the previous shows took on hundreds of thousands of views and hundreds of thousands of comments. You can't read them. You just can't. But I scroll, and some people going, you're a friggin' idiot. It was a natural wind fire caused by, and we're going to get into all this after the thing, but, caused by the power line and what are you going to do? You're going to get a mixed opinion. And then there's people who are like, thank God you're saying something as yourself.
Well, let's look at what we're really dealing with here. We're dealing with subconscious belief systems that have been inculcated for many years since birth, that are, and what we hear from media, what we hear from government is truth and honest, and that they're not providing any propaganda whatsoever. So
yeah,
that belief system is deeply ingrained, but in order to all of a sudden get out of that belief system, they have to come to the conclusion that, well, wait a minute, maybe the people who are in power in our governance aren't here to support us. So that's a big gap for people to take.
Hard for people.
And it's scary, because all of a sudden you see that the people that you've empowered and put there to oversee all of this money and infrastructure, it's like, wait a minute, they're using that against us to harm us. So it is a big gap. Yeah. So the reason why we're going through and putting this level of detail into our videos, so that people who look at it and you just can't help but use common sense and say, okay, this is what they're saying, the government reports are not correct. So at least that's one step in creating doubt in terms of the official story that they have. But we're chipping away at belief systems. And so, Peter, what you're doing, I'm glad you're getting this out and having an audience who cannot break that construct of how we look at the world in the way that has been ingrained in us for so long. But for a long time, this has been going on, in a deep state way. And now that it's coming to the forth, and now that it's coming out to this level where we see what happened with the pandemic, and we see the impact that the vaccines have had, and start to acknowledge that, and acknowledge the process, acknowledge the people who were empowered to create a mandate on that. Again, people are waking up because, and again, hopefully this will be part of the wake up as they see to what extent they will go to grab land, to create power. So again, this is a psychopathic system, and we have to be consciously aware.
Paul, I know people. Again, Facebook is what gauges me on how I do and what I do, because people spew their guts on Facebook. It's really weird, but that's how it works. And I swear, no matter how much on board you and I and a bunch of other people may be, you have people that can't wait to get their 15th booster. And we're crazy. And, so they're just as solid in their beliefs as, I never believed in brainwashing, but my God, this past few years has taught me a lot. And again, I've only come around probably the past 10 years or so. I was probably just like them, but sooner or later, thank God, better late than never. And as put to me by a woman that I had on my show, she says, everybody has their own journey, and some people just aren't going to make it. And that's just the way it is, but we're going to try. So it is what it is. All right. I'd like to play that video. I have a million questions for you. I do. So okay. I hope you have, but we're going to do this video. This is a pretty long video, but this is, what would you say about this video you're getting ready to play right now, that I'm getting ready to play?
Well, again, I think that it shows how we're confronting the government story. And as we confront the government story and that crumbles, then people's belief and trust in what they're saying also crumbles. So we're taking it one step at a time. As you know, there's a video on the vehicles, on the trees. We did one on the fire spread. We have many more videos that are coming up.
Yeah.
So as we do that, it becomes clear and obvious, if you use common sense, that your belief system that you have is going to crumble if you just listen and just look at the facts and data that's there with no spin, just the way it is.
Yeah. All right. So let's play this video, and then we're going to come back and we'll reiterate on the video and a lot of my crazy, wacky conspiracy stories or questions that I have for you, because again, you are boots on the ground. I don't think, I've played a gazillion videos of people making videos from the island, but I've never had the opportunity to directly talk. And you've seen, I know you have personally seen what I'm going to ask. And again, to a lot of people, I've had people that go, hey, that, back then it's like the Maui fire. They go, there's a fire in Maui. Again, if it doesn't affect you, you just don't know. Not everybody keeps up with, everybody's trying to hustle and keep up with their own lives. And some people are completely oblivious. So no fault, but there's a lot going on. And I'm hoping that we're going to wait, as you said, wake up some people and or keep more people up to par of what's going on. So let's play this video. Sit back and enjoy this. I know you put a lot of work into this stuff and effort. So let's see what's going to be happening here.
Aloha. I'm Paul Deslauriers for the Maui Community Investigation, where we're looking at some 20 omissions and rebuttals from the government's official reports. Here we'll be focusing on the main driving force of the fire, the intense winds that occurred on August 8th and concentrated in Lahaina. Our goal and objective is to let the data, facts, information, videos, testimonies, and unbiased experts tell the story instead of some contrived cover-up or conspiracy theory. So let's look at what happened on August 8th as the winds were barreling down the mountain to the ocean. The intense wind concentrated in the Lahaina region propelled the inferno along with radiant heat. This inferno was impossible to stop despite the valiant efforts of firefighters. These intense winds played a key role in the deaths of 101 residents and is integral to our forensic analysis. Within 8 hours, the Lahaina fire damaged or destroyed 2,207 structures, 86% of which were classified as residential, and consumed 2,170 acres. The government's story of a single source fire spreading out in this way and also avoiding key areas raises further questions that we'll cover in other videos. But our focus here is the driver of the fire, the intense winds. The Hawaii State Attorney General's report is the official government story that claims global warming and a Category 4 hurricane whose epicenter was nearly 600 miles away to the southwest, and a high-pressure system 800 miles away to the north of Maui, generated this concentrated, sustained winds that made this inferno possible. Our rebuttal to the government story starts with 7 significant omissions in their investigation into the weather. These omissions include a white haze tracking along with Hurricane Dora that coated Maui on August 7th, and intense wind concentration on August 8th in West Maui, while South Maui, North Maui, and Central Kihei were calm. And then there were the high number of wind cyclones that occurred on August 8th. And then strange cloud formations also that occurred on August 8th, as well as these strange frequency patterns in the troposphere. Shortly after the fire, mainstream media linked the fire to global warming. And this was being echoed by Hawaii's Governor Josh Green.
Leaving 60-mile-per-hour winds still with gusts up to 81 miles per hour. So what happened was when fire jumped from one spot to another, there were 3 or 4 fires going on at the same time. It got seeded very quickly with those 80-mile-per-hour gusted winds. And then the fire moved essentially at a mile per minute, 60 miles an hour down through the community. And that's what a fire hurricane is going to look in the era of global warming. And so we have to all do right now what we can to stop global warming and reverse it. He's been beating this drum that global warming was really aiding this fire and was one of the culprits behind this. But when we look at the actual data, which they do not look at, they just put out this story. And if we go to August, even back to 1946, you see it was 81.8 back in 1946 on August 8th. But what's really telling is when you go into the 10-year averages and look at the 1960, the average for that 10-year period was 80.2. Then you go to 1980, it's 80.8. And then over to 2000, it's 81.8. And 2020, we're at 81.7. Not a lot of fluctuations in terms of actual temperature that would indicate global warming is a factor here, especially when we look at the cause of the fire. So next, let's go into a little bit more detail into these different emissions, starting with this whole thing that occurred with this strange white haze. On August 4th, a thick white haze tracking along with Hurricane Dora to the south started off the coast of California. And notice how the hurricane stays relatively in the same spot in relation to this blob that moved closer and closer to Maui and engulfed us on August 7th. And many residents saw this kind of white wall coming in
And you can see the difference between the right and the left in terms of the actual haze. And you can see some of this haze again to the right as, again, it was a very strange phenomenon that residents hadn't seen before. So they took note of it. The winds were intense island-wide on the 7th of August. However, on the 8th, it was calm and somewhat still in upcountry, North Shore, South Maui, around Kihei, and Central Maui. But as soon as you get into West Maui, the winds were concentrated. And people who were driving from South Maui over to Lahaina that day noticed that as soon as they got past the tunnel that goes into Uluwatu, the winds picked up tremendously. So again, this differentiation of the wind speed and intensity just focused on West Maui on that day, again, is another omission that needs to be looked at. High number of wind cyclones that occurred, some really intense. Many residents noted that they have occasional wind cyclones, but not to this intensity and also not as many. There were some that we noticed that were over a mile offshore that we could detect. So again, this was not admitted as a point of interest in the government investigation. But yet, as we keep on going and looking at these anomalies, you'll see that, again, there are many things that were not noted. Next, we'll go into a video that Bruce Douglas, one of our teammates, has done on the cloud formation and also on the troposphere.
Now, this is a high-resolution image that happens twice a day in the AM and the PM over the entire planet. And this is the Hawaiian Island portion of it. And you can see on August 5th in the morning, we have normal wind patterns. In the afternoon of the 5th, normal wind patterns. The 6th, normal wind patterns in the morning and afternoon. But something happens on the 7th. The the clouds start lining up in straight lines coming at us in the morning of the 7th. And it's interesting, these lines of clouds don't go past the Hawaiian Islands. They stop at the Hawaiian Islands. Both are very unusual. By the afternoon, we were having very strong wind across the island. You can see there were perfect lines of clouds, very unusual. They would be lined up in harmonic patterns like this, and for some reason only go as far as the Hawaiian Islands and then stop and not go past us. Two very peculiar anomalies. And I've been looking at weather for 15 years and saving screenshots of hurricanes and video loops, and I have not seen anything like this before. This is the afternoon and morning of the 8th. You can still see the lines of clouds, only the sun angle is a little different, so we don't see it quite as pronounced. And here on the actual evening of the 8th, when we had the big windstorm that propelled the fires, again, the clouds were in perfect lines lining up against us. And for some reason, the Maui was blacked out on this particular image. Now, there is a line that sometimes appears across images. Was it random or intentional that was blacked out? It always makes us wonder. But then we see the next day, it goes back to normal wind patterns again on the 9th in the morning and the afternoon. So I'm going to talk about cymatics and geometric patterns. Cymatics is a way where you take a plate and put it above a speaker, and you run frequencies on the metal plate with sand on top of it. And as you play different notes, like the person on this piano is playing different notes, you see each harmonic frequency will make it line up. But you can also do the same thing with a loudspeaker and a petri dish filled with water. And on water, if you do various harmonic sounds at certain frequencies, you'll get these interesting patterns, kind of like what sometimes we see in the sky. So I'm going to come back to this in a moment. But this is the infrared satellite loops. It's a colorized, so it's artificially colorized to enhance the more extreme conditions. But this is the hurricane Dora moving across, and you see it forming right there off the coast of Mexico at about 10 degrees latitude, which is where hurricanes naturally form. And you see it start to spin up into a very tight pattern. I don't see any aerosols or anything else associated. It looks like a natural hurricane to me, and it's got a nice tight pattern to it. And you see around it, you know, winds and everything are calm around it. You see a nice cloud bank to the north of it, the solid cloud bank, that's not doing anything funny. But what's interesting about this is as Hurricane Dora approached Hawaii at 10 degrees latitude, passing about 500 miles to the south, this interesting phenomena of this speckly type of vibration across the clouds up in this area to the north up here and all in this area here. And you're going to see this where the clouds break up and they start forming, and you almost like there's a glistening happening. You can see a point up here where it seems like something is causing the frequency. This when the main part of the hurricane happened, storm happened here, and then the next day it goes back to normal patterns again. And then the hurricane goes on its merry way. Now, these are little video loops about 10 hours each that I have to string together to make a complete picture, which is what the jumpiness is. So this is a new phenomena that I've not noticed. So let's go up even closer, take a closer look at that, where you can really start seeing this funny pattern of glistening and frequency and vibration. This has to be explained. And you can't just use high and low pressure systems or climate change to explain this. Something's going on out there. On the 8th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., there's this black dot that happens right here. Let's play it again. Use one area here. Suddenly, in the middle of the day, right from 9 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the screen, suddenly blacks out. I don't know if that's an anomaly or, whether something was not being shown there. Hard to say, but it's a question I have.
With these omissions in mind, let's revisit the government's primary report shaping their official story. In their summary, they state that in the days preceding August 8th, 2023, Maui found itself in the crosshairs of a potential disaster. And as Hurricane Dora approached from the south, passing approximately 500 miles offshore, it created a pressure gradient that meteorologists warned would bring damaging winds, low humidity, and elevated risk of wildfire to the islands. So when you look at where they actually received the data to come up with this conclusion, you go to August 7th in their area forecast discussions. Now, this is a discussion of the forecast, and this is what they had to say. Deep layer ridging combined with an anomalous strong pressure gradient over the area between Hurricane Dora passing well to the south and the surface ridge to the north. So this again was helping to create, as they're saying, these strong winds, but when you look at this unauthored claim in a discussion, it's refuted by meteorologists.
There's been a lot of attribution given to the Hurricane Dora, but I really don't think that this hurricane has had anything to do with the winds here. Here's where the storm is now. It's a powerful hurricane. It's a Category 4 hurricane, but here are where the islands are. And yeah, right now the storm is moving away, and the closest this storm got was 600 miles. So I really don't think this played much in the way of a role at all in the winds, but they have had classic trade winds, and they'll continue with winds like that.
Using common sense, how can this moving pressure gradient generate sustained winds in Lahaina for nearly 2 days? And also, while on August 8th, the rest of the island is still, while winds fanned an inferno in Lahaina. As you can see, when you start to consider all these different omissions that are not part of the official investigation, a different story emerges. One that may allude to some type of engineered weather that was focused in Lahaina at that day. But let the facts and data tell the story and just use your common sense. So we'll be going into more videos like this. If you haven't looked at our other ones on the vehicles, on the fire paths, and also on the trees, go to our report section on our website, mauicommunityinvestigation.com. Also, if you haven't signed our petition, please do so. We would like your support as we go into our more legal approach. So again, we also need some support, financial support, as we go into this phase, because the legal approach certainly does add up. So again, thank you for your support, for spreading the word, and for helping us to get the message out, a message that may have global implications, because there are many incidences that are very similar that are happening all over at this point in time. So again, your support and spreading the word is greatly appreciated. Mahalo.
There you go. Look, the minute somebody starts crying climate change, I immediately, my hair stands up on my arms, calling bullshit.
Isn't it amazing when all you have to do is look at the actual information, data of temperature, and just look at, is there any real fluctuations that occurred? No, it's just normal fluctuations. So again, this is part of mainstream media story that's trying to be put on us, because certainly there's a lot of plans behind this whole thing of climate change in terms of carbon credits and other things that'll affect a lot of people, and certainly affecting farmers and other people right now. But again, we're dealing with illusion and delusion that gets put on us, and this is, I think, a way to really, by putting the information out like you're doing, to counteract that.
Of all, I've been to Oahu 20 times, 25. I have no Maui experience, although I don't know how or why, but I just don't. And so, but the one thing I do know is I've grown up in the Gulf Coast filled with hurricanes, and I've lived 33 years in the Southern California, Los Angeles area filled with wildfires. And it just doesn't make sense. I want to back it up. I need to bet, because you're talking about the wind conditions, which many years ago, my poor old father would look at me and say, in his upper 80s, do you remember the Indonesian tsunamis that killed like hundreds of thousands of people? He said to me, he looked at me when I was visiting, and he says, the government, they have ways to make that happen. And I looked at him, because I was, how many years ago was that? That was in the, I don't even remember what year it was, in the early 2000s. I looked at him, and my life was good. I was just floating along, just like many people. And I'm going, come on, Dad. He knew that things, there's things. He says they have things and ways to make that happen. And I'm going, how the hell do you make that happen? But this is how that happened. I want to ask you, you're talking about the winds making the fire worse due to whatever anomalies it is. How do you think those fires started?
Well, that's another point of investigation, because right now, if you go to the official story, what they're saying was that there was a fire that happened early in the morning on August 8th. It was up by the bypass, and it was extinguished by around 9 o'clock. And they had firemen there that watched it to make sure that it wouldn't restart. But when they left for lunch, it was 2:30, all of a sudden on 2:55, the fire rekindled. Or was it rekindle, or was a new start? That's a good question. So, and as we look at the fire spread, it looks like eagle's wings that are spread way out. Well, if you have wind roaring down the mountainside, then how can that? And so the wind will push the radiant heat and the flames forward along where the wind is blowing, and yet how can that be that it fanned out like that? So there is when we look at the actual fire that was left, the footprint of the fire, we can see that it looks like there were arson points in there.
So we don't know if there was additional arson, or what they're claiming was that it was a single source restart. The single source restart theory does not make sense. And there are other interviews that we've had where people say there were fireballs. And certainly there were a lot of explosions that occurred, as I mentioned already. So there's many things that could make that fire move in different directions and in different ways. The wind was swirling in different ways too, and through weather manipulation, that wind can be also controlled in that way and direction. So we don't know the mechanism. All we can do right now is look at what is the actual footprint, what has been left, how did it occur, what occurred during the fire itself, and gather that data and information so that we can have a forensic analysis as to what occurred. Because again, what they're saying, it was a single source restart that was driven by high winds. It was a typical urban interface fire, nothing to look for here. And when we did our FOIA requests on different things, we didn't get anything.
Paul, you're going to humor me, okay? Because again, I'm not there, but my curiosity, interest, and I've lived in 2019 in Calabasas, California. We had high winds for days. It burned up in the Agora areas. I mean, it burned up to people's houses. It burned people's houses. It burned houses and then skipped houses. I totally understand that. But I also understand that I've watched enough videos to see cars sitting in the middle of nowhere with no igniters, with nothing around them, that are melted. And I also know what it takes to get a car to catch fire to do that. And it doesn't make sense to me. And again, here comes Crazy Peter with the direct energy weapons. And I've seen videos of a church that has got a line split right down the roof.
Yeah, we could talk about that church. That's not
phony?
so.
Okay,
it's not phony. There was a burn mark in there, but if you look, it was a conduit. There was a backflow of electricity that happened. The conduit, burnt the ceiling right at that point. You can look, you can see the conduit, but the smoking gun for that was that you look at the roof.
Yeah,
roof's perfectly fine.
That's what I mean.
Not touched. So you have to. So what we do in this investigation is we get data and information like that people suspect something going on, and then we go in there and check it out and see, is this real or not? Is this, because again, a lot of people were putting data and information out about bodies and everything like that, but some people were just looking for clicks on their website. So that's what they do, sensationalize.
I'm just in search of the truth. And there was talk of all these cars jam-packed. Okay, forget about not everybody claiming they couldn't get out of the area. The cops are turning them away, but people burned to death in their cars. Why wouldn't you get out and run? Is that true or false?
I have pictures of bodies with people burnt in their cars. And again, I think that when you go and do an analysis and look at the routes that people took going back to Front Street, and again, how they were redirected by the police to go back into the burn zone. And yet people who were actually brave enough to say to the policeman, the hell with you,
right.
and go right through, they made it to safety. So again, these are things that are all part of the unfolding. Like you mentioned, the cars, the vehicles. So what we did was there's a video that we produced recently. We have Tim Stokesbury, a former fire captain in Kauai, who did the analysis with us as we went through and looked at vehicles, like you said, that to start off with, I mean, we have this one vehicle that, as you look at, it was just surrounded by light grass in a huge parking lot, asphalt parking lot. And next to it was a house and a Quonset hut and this light brush. None of the light brush or anything was taken. All that you see is the front of the engine block melted down and the whole cab melted down, and yet the back of the vehicle with not only gasoline in the tank, but also they were aerial cans. It was a utility vehicle, and I could spray the cans. So, and everything else, even a light brush, like I said, surrounding it. So when you start looking at evidence like that, again, common sense, because we look at it and and what could leave a footprint like that? What could do that? Well, there's certainly plasma energy that goes to where there's higher density. So if you look at trees, for example, the trees burnt from within. And while the bark is fine, but yet it's hollowed out just perfectly, like it's about a half an inch thick, the whole tree trunk, and the bark is not touched at all, not burnt or singed, and yet it goes down and penetrates to 1.5 feet into the taproot, into the root system where it's just ash. So as I dug and we did exploration into these trees, I found what seemed to be phregulites, which are basically fused clay and rock and sand that creates rock. It fuses together. So we haven't had that analyzed yet, but these are the types of things that we're seeing that, again, we have to use common sense, especially with like the vehicles, and if you go to our where we have our archives of these videos, we have that one on the homepage, but also in our Lahaina report tab. And if you take a look at that, you get to see, like, oh my God, how can there's nothing, like Tim Stokesbury says, I've never seen anything like this. This makes no sense whatsoever.
It makes no sense whatsoever. This is what bothers me so much, that people are going, look, it was a fire. Wildfires are hot. I've been, again, I understand how embers can travel, but Front Street is not, again, I've never been there, but common sense, I've seen enough pictures. There's not enough fuel there to do the damage that it did. I don't understand. And let's talk about real quick the boats that are in the water, to completely decimate the boats in the water. How the hell does that happen?
Well, again, we keep on looking at this very objectively and clearly. There were a lot of boats that were offshore that were burning. And then when I started to talk to the boat owners and the people who had their boats in there's a harbor there in Lahaina where they have a lot of boats. They had about 70 boats in there. And there were some boats that survived on the far, far end of the harbor. They were fine. The others burnt and sunk. Now, some people were trying to get their boats out, and they were on fire. So they started to go out, and then they abandoned ship. So that did happen, and I do have interviews along that line. But again, we keep on digging and saying, okay, is this a smoking gun? Does this have something of forensic significance? Just like we look at the color blue. Well, I looked at how many blue cars were that we could see, or blue roofs that were untouched. And there was a lot of roofs that were blue that were totally destroyed. So again, we just look objectively at the data, but there's enough information about some of these other anomalies that absolutely make no sense unless you start to look at some type of high energy weapon.
Okay, because I am totally in agreement with not normal fire, intentional things that we don't, top secret stuff that has been around probably since the 80s, but things that they don't talk about because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, to catch a car, a metal object on fire, never mind the people that, like, the car's on fire and you're going to sit in the car on the water. I heard stories about people jumping into the water. I mean, but where's all these people with their stories about what the hell actually happened? You don't hear about any of this. And I understand some people not wanting to say things or do, because I'm living in this world about like people emailing me every day going, Peter, I'm totally with you. I can't talk about this stuff because I'm in a situation to where I can't, like they're jeopardizing their job or their family or whatever. Where are these people?
So I think, Peter, it's about trust, because again, we have a very tight community here in Maui.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a resident and you've been participating in civic engagement and really involved in the community and have been involved there at the hubs, helping people survive as our team has, people are willing to not only open up about their experience, but get their friends and other people. Like I have 2 people going around right now to the survivors finding out about fireballs, because that is another potential incendiary device that was used. And we have a few, but we want to make sure that we get a lot of witnesses and trying to get as much video on that as possible, or pictures. So before we come out with these type of things, we do a deep dive. And as we do that, we keep on connecting with more and more people. I just had, just for our internet that we were just doing this morning, the guy from Spectrum came over and his uncle was in the fire, and he showed me videos that I hadn't seen before. So he's sending them to me, and he knows someone who has some very specific information that'll be very important to us. So again, this is just today.
Yeah.
But so we're still gathering data and information. And again, it's on our ongoing investigation. But at this point in time, I would say there's enough here as we keep on looking at different aspects of the fire that we haven't really put out yet and put out on video. But we're going to be doing some on next one. We're doing some on arson points. We're doing videos on the escape routes. We're doing one on the bodies also with some coroners to look at the pictures of the bodies that we do have. And once you look at that, I mean, every fire captain and fire chief that I've talked to and showed pictures of the bodies, they said, no, I've never seen anything like this before.
Incineration. Are we talking about incineration pretty much?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you get to that heat? I mean, because again, I got the people that would write and go, you're a friggin' idiot. It's like glass melts, metal, aluminum melts, and, all this kind of stuff. Who would sit in their car and incinerate when the water is right next to you?
Well, there weren't people. I don't know of how many bodies were found. We have maps of where the bodies were found.
Yeah.
Most of them were on this one street that was totally blocked in. There were over 42 deaths on that one street. So again,
uh-oh, you just popped off again. There you go.
Out there. So, and we've gotten a few back, and what we've gotten is not very conclusive at all.
I'm just dumbfounded because I don't know. I can only go by the information I gather because I dug kind of deep, and you're just trying to take things but the word in my mind is microwave, because you're burning from the inside out. Your trees that you're showing, and I watched your videos. I've been trying to get you on this show for months, and until I finally contacted you, and so therefore I was watching what you had to offer and present. And I've heard stories. People have, I don't know if they're true or not, but of toilets, a ceramic toilet being reduced to ash. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but how do you get trees to burn from the inside out? I mean, I see you shaking your head, but I mean, come on.
Well, that's just it. Again, I think that like we have to do is show the data and information. And have people use common sense, but there is a big block and barrier in our subconscious. And again, you have to cross the Rubicon. You have to go to a point where all of a sudden you're saying, oh, our government could be doing things to harm us. I made that leap in 2002 when I woke up to what happened on 9/11,
right,
and became a full-time activist then.
See, you're a few years ahead of me.
What's that?
You're a few years ahead of me. It took me till about 2000, I don't know, 10 or 13, something like that, before I finally figured it out. Sorry, I was a little. Yeah.
But again, just like they're using the same playbook in many ways, just like they have underwriter laboratories who were doing the investigation for the state. That's the same organization that was involved with the NIST report for the 9/11 tower collapse. And they came up for the 3 towers that collapsed on that day. They came up with the pancake theory. And again, it's fabricated data. It's data and information that was, and we have whistleblowers. Kevin Ryan, we have some videos of him who was a manager and underwriter laboratory say, wait a minute, this isn't what the data says. You're reporting something totally fictitious that then allows you to make this theory. So just like they're doing right now with the weather, they reported this fictitious story of this pressure gradient drop that was actually 1,400 miles apart from each other, the high and low pressure, and not even close to Maui. And yet it created this isolated wind on that day, on the 8th, while the rest of the island was calm. So, just use common sense. That's their main argument. And then you look at how they actually came up with the conclusion. It's fluff. There's nothing of substance. There's no meteorologist saying this is the way it is. In fact, meteorologists say just the opposite. I showed in the video. So again, I think that we just have to look at the data and information, and hopefully we'll come to awareness that will then bring about civic action. Because once we start coming together, that's where things happen.
I'm surprised you're telling me the death count. What did you say, 150 what?
No, the death count was right now is 104.
104.
Yeah.
Way lower than I'd ever think.
Well, this is part of our investigation that we're doing. One of the areas that we don't have real good solid data on are all of the unregistered immigrants that were living in Lahaina. And also there were homeless people who were there also living in Lahaina. So seeing that they're not registered and part of the system, that we don't know for sure, but that's why we're digging. And we have 2 people who are focused on that at this point in time to go look at, all the people that lived there that were registered and how many, unregistered aliens were there. And so we're trying to get that data and information and then follow up with some of the people who were illegal immigrants coming in to see if they lost their uncle or their nephew or someone that they know. But again, we're still digging. We're still digging.
It just blows my mind because, again, I have heard all kinds of stories. You heard, you probably heard them all too, but I have to reiterate for my audience stories about, like ex-Navy SEALs coming in on boats and to help secretively. What do they call it? Not federal agents, not Red Cross. Who are the other ones? People killing people and taking them into the forest and burying them. I mean, again, dead people tell no tales. That kind of a theory of like people, not FEMA coming in because they blocked off the neighborhood. Nobody. I see you smiling, but this is the stories that we either bunk or debunk because you don't know. And I was getting these stories that FEMA, they were dressed as or supposedly FEMA agents, literally killing people because they were wiping out that area for this reason of a land overtake, and these people just disappearing and never to be seen and burying them somewhere deep in the forest, wherever that may be. I mean, these are the stories that I'm hearing. People who've made videos of it, true or false, I just bring it out there. You decide.
Well, I think, Peter, that again, what we're doing is making sure that we do real nitty-gritty research, that we have the facts, the data, the information, the videos, experts, so that it tells a clear story. What's happened initially in the fire, where there was a lot of emotion, and when there's a lot of emotion, that's where beliefs form the deepest. And people were coming out with all of these things like thousands of people have died, or there are hundreds and hundreds of children missing.
The children, the buses.
So then, well, if that were so, let's look at the children. Right. So if there was something of substance behind that, when I spent a lot of time going over to these hubs that they had set up, the community set up for all the survivors. And I talked to a lot of people, hundreds of people. And not once did I hear anything from a mama bear that says, oh, my baby, I don't know where it is. It's not reported. And not once. Not once did I hear anything like that. Or did I hear anything about neighbors? Oh, I can't find Johnny, who lived next door. I haven't heard that. So again, these are residents, but again, undocumented aliens coming in could be another source that is really tough to check, because I don't know how much they participated in the hubs. But the people I talked to, the people who've lived there their lives, again, it's not so. People were reporting that there were hundreds of bodies washed up on Lanai. When I call people on Lanai, what? So what I find is that there are people who make money through the internet, through getting clicks. The more clicks they get, the more money they make.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying about you, Peter, at all, because you go for the real deal. But these people like to fabricate, like to make things much worse than they really are, so that they can sensationalize and get a lot of clicks. So
Wow.
I find that there's a good population that I found, because we were gathering data and information. We weren't putting much out because we felt like we're not at a stage where we have enough understanding, and nor did we know how the government was going to respond with their reports. But now that we've done our research, and we're still doing research, but as we've got a foundation, and we can go against their specific reports that they put out. So
I hear you. I find this content I have to question, but I put it out there to try to figure out. Number one, I don't even monetize this show. The show is not monetized. In fact, I lose money out of my own pocket because I care.
There you go.
Well, to me, it's like if things are going to go good, they're going to go good because of what you do. I've always been that way. It's like being in a band. You write songs. If you don't get a record deal, you just keep on writing songs. I'm writing songs every week. If I don't get a record deal, I'm not going away because I believe in my band. But talk to me about how quickly they erected that black fence and how it came up so quickly to engulf and surround the area and not let anybody in, including the people who own the properties and things like that.
Well, I was able to go into the burn zone in that area 2 weeks after. That's when they opened up the bypass and were allowing people to come in. By that time, they already had put up a lot of that black barrier, but not totally. So one of my teammates, Bruce Douglas, and I, we got in there and we took samples, took a lot of photographs. We started to get data information on the vehicles and the trees, and trying to look at the strange path of the fire. We got kicked out, but later, when they started letting residents in, people who knew what we're doing and know us as part of the community, invited us to go in and go to their site. And also we would drive around the whole burn zone area. So I've been in there, I think 16 times. I've been in there collecting data and information, spending the day there. So I did get access. And that's why we're able to do a lot of the, put together a lot of the videos that we have because of that access that I had.
You basically snuck in, though. You basically snuck in because they didn't want anybody in there, correct?
No, if I were to go on in there by myself and not be there with a resident, they wouldn't have let me in. No, but it was being with people who lived there, who lost their houses, who lost their businesses. So I would spend a lot of time going over some specifics with them because there's a lot of people who lost everything, who have a lot of questions as to how could this possibly occur.
Okay, because I've had videos of people claiming, elderly people, like weeks and weeks later, that they couldn't go back to their own properties. They weren't allowed in via the police, And I see videos from town hall meetings that like the insurance companies can't pay the claims because they're not allowing people, the insurance people, to go in there to assess and make the claims so they can get paid, therefore going broke and losing their properties, and this whole system of the downfall. I don't know what's true, what's not true, but I mean, these are the videos I see.
So
makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know the exact date they started to let people in,
Yeah.
but they were at first accompanied by FEMA people and stuff. So that's when they first started. There was concern that because of the number of bodies and that people would be walking over bodies or ash, so they didn't allow access. That was their storyline that they had for that. But again, to block off a whole area, I guess you could say, well, if it's a crime scene, they would block it off like that.
I know, but we've had fires all over the country in the past. The Paradise fires in California were devastating. They people were killed in the forests and things like that. This was just very unusual, different. Like, and to get in there, okay, I understand that. And I was told that they sprayed something to keep so-called the dust down that was kind of toxic. True or false?
True.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they sprayed the whole area to reduce the amount of dust that would blow out. We did an analysis of the ash and substrate. Maui Community Investigation did. We got 22 samples from around that whole area, some in residential, some in where they had apartment complex, and some in more industrial areas. And we compared the samples, and about 92% of the toxins were all concentrated in the ash. So we asked them to, and then they took an additional, that was just 1 inch of ash, or maybe 2 inches of ash. But they took on top of that 6 inches of substrate below that. So we're saying, instead of mixing all of that in so that we have why don't we just take the more toxic stuff, and we can do plasma technology, turn it into an inert glass. There's a lot of things that could have been done. They didn't go for it. And the Army Corps said, no, this is the way we do it. This is it. If you want to if you want us to do it, otherwise you're on your own.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you this real simple, straightforward. Do you think this was a cover-up?
From all I've seen so far, and from all the data and evidence that we get, and especially all of the omissions that have occurred in their reporting. Yeah, of course. This is not natural. Okay. This is not what they're saying, that it was a normal urban interface fire. Mm-hmm. No.
Okay. I want to play you a video real quick. It's a 1 minute video of something, and then we're going to go from there. I know you don't know what I'm going to play you. I didn't tell you things, but this is just something that I want to, this, because I feel this plays a really important role in the authoritative structure. So here, check this out.
The sooner you realize there is no coincidence, the quicker you're going to wake the fuck up. Nobody finds it odd. This is the same police officer that led the response team in 2017 with the Vegas massacre. Same dude. Thank God I'm not the only one. A woman in Maui called him out straight up.
Here. So maybe it's different for you because you just got here, huh? So it's not the same. It's not the same. No comment. You have to look up on photo.
No comment right now, guys.
No comment?
Yeah. This woman's got some stones, man. She sees right through the bullshit and she's asking the questions, but guess what? No comment. It's so weird these high-ups can say no comment to any question. It is all connected, and I am begging you to wake the fuck up.
True or false?
Oh yeah, true. He was involved with the Las Vegas shooting. He got into here in Maui as the chief in a very strange way. I was on the charter commission at the time, and I got to interview and connect. And I remember him making promises that he's a team player, that he listens, that he's going to be sensitive to the culture. As soon as he gets in, it's my way or the highway, guys.
Politics. I hate politicians.
So we got There was I can go into some of the specifics on how he got in, but to be police chief, but he is, and he still is. I went to the event that happened on the 8th in Lahaina at the Civic Center. I sat close to him and Governor Green and our mayor and our county council members. So it was interesting to see the dynamics of Pelletier. And
Paul, what are the odds of, because that's a conspiracy right there in Vegas. Vegas is still up in the air, correct?
Correct.
But and then to end up over there, and then self-appointed coroner to write. Correct me if I'm wrong, but again, this is what I've found, that he self-appointed himself coroner, so nobody knows the true story. But this little inner circle, there's no outside people to confirm nor deny. That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Well, first of all, it was illegal to have the chief of police also be the coroner. Wow. That is illegal for that to occur. And again, that's the same type of strangeness. So we've been trying to get data and information on a lot of specific things, especially the coroner reports, and to go into some specifics, especially some bodies that we've seen that, again, it's anywhere near damage caused by a normal fire, right, or any type of fire, period.
It takes a lot to incinerate a body. I mean, most cremations, they still have to grind up. I mean, tell me quickly, I mean, what do you think? How much more of just burning to death in a fire do you think these people burn to death in? Does that make sense?
Well, in terms of, there were no people that we actually, there's 2 people who are missing that haven't been found. But out of that, there were bodies associated with all of the other people. So it wasn't that they were incinerated to ash. There was bones. We have pictures of these bodies that are just ash, but yet you look and their hair is still on their head.
Cool. How does that work?
That's what I mean. So that's why when we show this to other people who have some expertise in dealing with bodies like this, they're saying, So that's why we're still looking to put a video out on that. We're waiting to get some more forensic experts and coroners to make comments on things.
To me, that's deep lies. Something is seriously awry and wrong with the whole thing. I don't know. I'm no genius, but you're there.
So the police department has not responded to any of our FOIA requests. Other than that, they've received it. And what we're going to be doing next is going to writ a mandamus, which is then in civic court to then go and basically go after the police department so that they can release key data. There's a lot of information that I think is very, very telling that we need to really get that information. Dispatcher reports is a good example. That is a recording of all of the way everything was orchestrated, who was doing what, who gave the order for what. That's all in there. And so we're still trying to get that type of information.
Yeah, from what I gather, a lot of people were not the authoritarian people. Were coincidentally happened to not be on the island. The water, how do you not have water in friggin'? You're on an island. You could pump it from the friggin' ocean, can't you?
Well, as I talked to firemen, basically there was water that was in the box stores. I know of one area in Air Front Street where there was water till 11 o'clock at night, but it was very, very slow flow. So again, the whole water distribution and how water is hoarded and the whole issue, legality of water and who owns this public trust is in question. And that's why we've done the charter amendments. The charter amendments, one of them was to stop this Canadian pension fund from controlling our water system, our main water system in East Maui. So again, this is the type of dynamics that we're facing when you have big money interests trying to take over, as they did back in 1893 here. So there's a scar, a residual from the Hawaiians, because it was just brutal. They had 5 corporations that ruled, and they tried strikes, they tried everything, and they kept on importing people to be strike breakers. That's why we have such a culturally diverse group. We have 14 major cultures that are part of Maui. So that all came about through the plantations, bringing in these other people from different ethnic groups to be strike breakers. So this is the corporate control that we are moving into, certainly with a different type of electronics and surveillance and things like that. But I mean, back then they had to, in order to communicate with the unions, they had to write messages on toilet paper and pass it under the stalls, because it was illegal to communicate about anything to do with the unions.
Look, again, okay, I don't know how the winds, let's say the winds just happen to be the winds. You still, I was born early in the morning, 5:35 in the morning, but not, yesterday morning. And how you get boats to burn completely to the ground, so to speak, in the water. I mean, from even embers that are flying, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense to me. And until somebody, really gives me the hard facts of how that happened, certain things like that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, these cars, metal objects to go to this, people to not run from a situation. I mean, it just doesn't add up, and I'm not buying it. And that's just the way it is. But people, to me, they've swept it under the rug so frigging quick. And it's like nothing to see here, folks. Just, it was an accident. It happened. Life goes on. How about the native people? I mean, a lot of people are going to have to give up everything they've owned and lived for, correct? Or who's going to still be able to hang on to their properties?
Well, again, what they're doing now is jacking up insurance. So people who do want to rebuild all of a sudden are faced with huge insurance bills, which, again, it's part of the gentrification. This is how, the elite can get a whole area where they jack up then, a lot of different pieces. Certainly, there's money coming in, but how that money is actually being distributed and being used. I mean, right now there are permits that have been issued. Last I heard, there were 68. But again,
so what's 68? That's not enough. It's nothing.
Look, it's been over a year, and there's and there's still not affordable housing to put people in. They're still being housed in hotels and other areas like that. And in Kauai, after Aniki happened, that hurricane that was devastating, within 1 month they had affordable housing constructed. Yeah. So it's possible, but there's a reason why people drag it out. And if they drag it out long enough, people just can't hang in there. And I know people who are having a very difficult time to hang in there. So when they do that, then they get them out, and it's open then for the open market. Or so again, this is part of the shift, and we're trying to do the best we can as community to counteract some of these moves. Like, for example, FEMA came in and all of a sudden had this tremendous amount of money to give people who have rental units here in Maui, so that they could then have these people who were part of the fire go in there. Well, what they did was normal rents for, let's say, a 2-bedroom apartment or something like that is about $2,200, $2,400. They would then say, "Oh, we'll give you $7,000 a month." So now the people who were living there all of a sudden don't have a place to stay, especially if they didn't have a long-term lease, which hardly no one does here. And they're out on the street, and all of a sudden our rental rates are going up to $7,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. And it's affecting our rental market, affordable housing. It's unbelievable, the repercussions. But see,
Still,
this is, yeah. I
a
mean,
year later.
A year later, we're dealing with, affordable housing issues that are just incredible. Everything's gone up. We're just in a little normal neighborhood, where, you have like a $150,000, $200,000 house maybe 10 years ago. They're over $1 million for each one of those houses now. So this is what happens though, and then the tax base goes up, so people can't afford the tax base.
Taxes. Yeah, sure.
So again, and with the insurance also jacking up, and how the prices have increased here in terms of food, just like they have really everywhere.
Yeah, but Hawaii's a little bit more. Oh, he'll pop back on. There he goes.
Got a lot of people whose income comes primarily from working for a hotel, where they're not making that much money. So people to be able to afford things, it's a whole issue that we're facing here in the county around affordable housing. That's a whole other issue.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, I know I just don't feel right. I want to play one more video. It's just an aerial drone video of the decimation and all stuff like that, and then we'll just talk about that. And then, man, we're running real long, but I don't care because I got this shot with you, and we're able to be on air, so I'm taking advantage of it. Check this out real quick, and then we'll go from there. I don't even remember exactly what it is, but I know I put it up here, so it must be something worth it. Check this out.
I shot a drone video over the whole area so that you could have pictures of your home and you could share it with your insurance company. I drove my GoPro on my motorcycle so you'd have images of that area for your insurance claims and also for a future litigation, because now you can't get in there. Now it's a war zone. Now it's like checkpoints and Checkpoint Charlie and guards and FBI and ATF and Army. These people have not been able to go back to their homes to get the contents of their safe. And I've heard rumors about who is rummaging through that. Again, I'm not here to spread rumors, but I'm just telling you. To not allow homeowners to go into and get their stuff is weird. To not allow press to go in there to get their stuff doesn't make sense. To not allow citizens like me to pull over on the side of the road and take pictures and videos from afar of what's going on. I can't fly my drone over there and watch the hillside for future strikes causing fires, or looking down and seeing what FEMA's doing. To block everybody out is against our constitutional rights.
That just reminded me. This guy, do you recognize him? He was pretty predominant.
Oh, Eric's one of my brothers. So we've been, so when we do our posting for our videos, Eric posts them for us because he has a good following. And so like just on his site, like I mentioned before, he got about 30,000 views just from his site.
What's he called? Island Realty or something like that? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yep. And Eric is a real estate broker, and he lives in Lahaina and had access to the internet early on, and was able to broadcast a lot of information where no one else could at the time. So it really made a very, very big influence at initially. And Eric's still doing it. I've been doing videos with Eric. And if you go to his website, you can see some of our stuff that's there also.
I just happened to see, again, early on, he had a lot of videos coming out with the burned cars in the middle of a limb, open area, by a football field and all this kind of stuff. And okay, they say the manifold was reduced to powder. Now I thought about that afterwards. A lot of intake manifolds on cars nowadays are plastic, but it doesn't change the fact that it melted aluminum and and the glass was melted in an area that there was nothing there to catch the car on fire in the first place, to make it burn as hot as it burned, to make it look like it looked. That's just me. What do I know? But he has a lot of videos. I started using a lot of that back last year.
So some of the information I think is important to just be clear that when you have aluminum that's melting, it's about 1,1200 degrees.
Yeah.
And that is within the range of 1,500 degrees is within the range of these fires. But when you start to go into glass, which is at about 2,700 degrees, and you go into actual metal that, again, you're looking at that same 24 to 27 range. That needs to be explained. So, there's things that we can do where, as we get more and more forensic experts to look at and you look at some of the videos of cars burning, again, very telling. And to have, I have, if you go to our video that we have on vehicles, I think that you'll see a lot of information there that just makes you scratch your head and say, this is not normal. We need to do an investigation, because what they're telling us, because they totally ignored the whole thing with vehicles. Oh,
Yeah.
nothing to look at here. No.
Bullshit. I call bullshit. Okay, it's that plain and simple. Here I go swearing again. I told myself I was going to try not to swear tonight, but it doesn't. The car is in the middle of nowhere with a little bit of dry grass in like little clumps, patches. It's one thing if the car caught fire on the seats of the car, but there's no other fuel to make the paint burn off of the car. You'd have to have something very, very intense. And this is why I just call bullshit. I'm sorry. I feel bad for these people. I hurt, because this is not, this is our country, our government, and they're just totally, gone awry. And it's just not right. I don't know what to say. Not right.
Well, it's not right. Exactly. And we're dealing with people who are looking at targeting citizens, and I think that we have to be consciously aware of that, and that's why we're slowly bringing out all the data, making sure that everything that we put out is accurate, correct, that we're not, doing anything to distort the information that we're trying to convey. So.
Let me ask you one more thing, because we skipped the whole reason why this area possibly went to hell. On the books, it's been spoken about. I believe is documented about talks about making that area what's called a smart city, or reconstructing it to be a totally different environment and all that. True or false? And how long ago was that, talked about, to where there's a great possibility is on how and why everything is going on?
Well, first of all, true, yes. There are plans for having Maui be a smart city. That was done years ago in the planning process. And you look at things like Josh Green in July declaring that if there's a major disaster in a historic area, that the government will take over and they can do what they want, basically. Now, to have a law passed like that right before the fire, it just starts to raise questions again as we keep on looking at the reality of what we're facing here. So
yeah, there's a lot of coincidences that happened. I forgot about meetings that went on and things like that. Again, it's been a while, because every week I'm doing different types of shows, from alcoholism to reality of life, but there's a lot of things going on. Here's what I want to do, because I got to keep moving. Unfortunately, time is just blowing by. I want to be able to open. That is not what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to have people go and find you if they have questions, because you're the one with the pretty much variety of all the information about what's going on. And if they want to come find you, the best place to find you is at your own website, which is www.mauicommunityinvestigation.com, correct?
Correct. And they can email us if they want at info@mauicommunityinvestigation.com.
Right.
So and that way, if you have specific questions, or if you have some things that you'd like to comment, or if you have people that that has specific information that might be helpful in our forensic investigation, please contact us. No.
Yeah, because I know that there's people, because from the last shows that I've done, that have commented from all over the world, being that this doesn't only happen to Maui. It's happened in different. Chile got hit, see what I mean? Cancun, just recently, another tourist area, which, all of a sudden all hell broke loose over there and forced up.
Yep, Greece, Canary Islands, Texas. We can go on and on in terms of the amount of similar attacks that are occurring right now. So, again, if we can do a deep dive and show that these attacks are not natural or caused by global warming, then we can start to then create a level of conscious awareness of what we're facing. And that's what we need, so that people can get involved civically. Civic engagement is crucial. And I would say that to get involved in your local community, but get involved with your community, period, in terms of getting to know your neighbors, talking about growing your own food, looking at connecting and forming groups like we did with the Maui Community Investigation. This is civic engagement. And this is what it looks like in terms of what a small group of people can do in terms of exposing what's happening. Because they put a tremendous amount of money and effort into cover up stuff. But yet it takes a lot less energy if you really can clearly show the truth to put that out. So that's what we're relying on, that we can get this out to people and make it very clear and objective.
I think the biggest thing is getting people to realize that there's a lot of people out there for their own financial gain, you know, to rebuild, to make other areas more profitable and get rid of all the locals and the poor people, you know, the meaningless, you know, menial. And people, a lot of people say, no, come on. Anybody believing that every time they start saying climate change, you better open your eyes. But again, I know people that truly believe in climate change. Of course, climate always changes. But I've had, people that the guy that started the Weather Channel says there is no climate change. I mean, the levels of water over 100,000 years hasn't changed much. But again, you got people that buy into this, and it's just shameful. It's criminal. It's just plain criminal. So there we are.
That's right. There we are. And I think that we have a lot that we can do if people can help spread the word. And Peter, thank you for getting the message out the way you've been doing. I think it's so important as we cover so many topics that are so relevant to our health and well-being as we move forward.
Paul, this is no coincidence. Okay, you aren't here just because there's nothing else to do. Those fires didn't happen just by accident, and that's that. And until we get people to understand, whether they want to call us names and call us, conspiracy theorists or whatever, you lived it, you're there, and there's people that died because of it. And if it was an accident, I wouldn't be having this show. I wouldn't be doing it. I got better things to do. But even I could figure that out. So what do I know?
Well, same here, Peter. I wouldn't spend, and same with our whole team that we have, we wouldn't spend a year of our time to go and dig into this if we didn't see that there was something of substance here. Yeah.
All right. Listen, I thank you for being on the show. I truly do. I want to follow up on this as we go down the road. And in fact, and hopefully we'll work out all the bugs that we were working on.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for that we are on, and we've had a couple of little quick bloops that you blooped off of, but it wasn't the way we anticipated on doing it, but we made it. So I'll take it at this point in my life. I'm just glad to be here. Listen, anybody who wants to donate and check out more of what Paul has to offer from the Maui Community Investigations right here, go to his website, www.mauicommunityinvestigation.com. He's got a plethora of videos, information, and ways if you want to get involved and help. And I know there's actually people that do care other than you and me. I know they're out there, but it's hard. Life is a hustle. I mean, we're all just trying to survive because they are putting the screws on us in so many ways, trying to cripple the whole universe, so to speak. So life's a bitch, but as long as we wake up and fight the good fight, we have a chance. We're not done yet. So thank you for giving me the time. And what I want you to do, wave to everybody and
thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. I really do. And thank you for listening, all of you.
There you go. All right, hang out, and we're just going to close up real quick because we have gone really, really long, but it was really worth it. I'll see you in a bit. All right, so I got off to a 5-minute funky start, but at least we got off to a start. Again, this whole summer, this has been the craziest summer of shows with catastrophic broadband issues, not only on my part, but even 2,000 miles away from me tonight. We're having things, but we made it. I hope you paid attention to tonight's show. I love you for paying attention to tonight's show, whether you're listening to it on podcast or watching it on the show, which reminds me, I thank you for spending the time. I know it takes a lot of dedication to sit and watch a show of this length. But for those of you who are busy, put an earbud in your ear, Google Peter G Show podcast. You can take the audio version of this show or all of the other 400 plus shows and put it on audio and listen to it on demand while you're driving in the car, while you're exercising, while you're at work. We all know work is boring. All right. Information with a purpose right here. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I would not talk about this stuff if it didn't. I'm just passionate about this. People died. Families' lives have changed forever. And this happens in your everyday world, but I can only do so much. A piece here, a piece there, but a piece is better than just turning my head and just making like everything's okay when it's not okay. And I love you for paying attention. I do. Every Wednesday right here, Life of Peter G. You can watch it live, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. Don't forget, next week, real quick, I want to remind you, going back to current here and now, Defender of the Republic, Miss Katie Passy, is going to be on this show. Her videos blew up recently, had her on the show 2 years ago about current events, about the Republic and everything we're standing for to fight the good fight. She is a plethora of information as well as easy on the eyes, but the bottom line is she's standing up for our life here in the United States to be an American. And she's going to be on this show. 2 years ago, she was great, but now she's grown so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing what she has to bring to the table, because we are in really weird economic life times. And a lot of people have no clue. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, screw you, Peter, whatever. I am not judging. This is America. You have the choice to make decisions of your own. I'm not going to not like you anymore or not love you anymore. Love is a big word, as always with me. I have people, friends of mine, that are like, Peter, your show used to be so good. What happened to you? You've gone this way and that way. Sorry, not sorry. I still love you. What you choose to think of me is your business. But I'm not going to dislike you because you're feeling some other emotion. For 30 years, we always had the greatest times in the world. And now, because the world is the way it is, there's some decisions to make and some choices to make. And I'm making them to the best of my ability. I could be wrong, but you've yet to explain it to me on why I'm wrong. And I'm the only one seeming to spew things out to try to bring things to your attention, but you don't want it. You don't want to know. Some people do. Some people do. And thank God. I figure if I reach one person, I did my job for the week, but it ends up reaching more than that. But anyway, next week, August 21st, Defender of the Republic, Miss Katie Passy, is going to be right here. Her video from 2 years ago when I first shot her on the show is viral on Facebook right now. It's in the millions. She's a plethora of information. Come join me. Listen to what she has to say. I'm telling you, if anything, you're just, educating yourself and or saying, bullshit. Whatever. But at least you listened. I give you that for paying attention. All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And as always, I leave you with this. Hang on. Life is really a bitch. Life is a struggle. Okay. Every day. I'm watching it. I have so many people that live hand to mouth daily, weekly, monthly, struggling, and yet still not seeing the light. Again, I don't care about your opinion on what you think is right, the right way to go, and who to believe in, and what party you're in. I can care less. I love you anyway, but we're all fighting and struggling to stay alive, regardless. It's just a different in decimals on of what you. For one person who's worrying about $100,000, there's a person that $10 is about as important in their life as $100,000. So be kind. I guess that's my point. Be kind. All right. You don't have to be an ass, but you don't have to take a lot of shit from people either, or crap. Sorry, I swore again. It's working on me. Been a long show, a meaningful show. I hope you paid attention. My name is Peter G. Thank you for watching from the bottom of my heart. As always, I love you guys. I do. I don't judge. We all come about in different phases. Some may never, and some are way over the top, but that's what makes the world go round, all right? I love you. I'll see you next week. As always, I love you guys. Peace out.
Peter G. Show. Peter G. Show. Divorce Dad.